things that came out of talking with people who support the show is what we're trying to do now, where we're talking about a different reef pest every show. And today I thought, let's talk about Aiptasia. And I think we should do 2-minute videos on these, but I'll talk to you about that separately. And I hope Snowman leaves that in as like a little thing. To make people go, what the hell is he talking about? So we talked about flatworms, red planaria last week. Talk about Aiptasia. Aiptasia is an anemone kind of creature that proliferates in reef tanks very easily. If you break it up, it tends to form daughter colonies. They can really take over. They eat anything. They survive in almost any conditions.
Man, for new, when I worked in stores and new aquarists coming in and all the stuff we're talking about, the best way that I always had to describe Aiptasia was, well, and that might speak to a certain like subset of, I mean, I'm 46 years old, but that old Disney cartoon Fantasia, where Mickey Mouse takes care of that wizard's broom, but then he chops it up and it makes a million brooms. So, I mean, that's what Aiptasia does. If you just go poking at it and you don't outright kill it, it just proliferates all over your aquarium and stings things off of their skeleton, and they're absolutely annoying.
And then they can also spawn as well. So they can really do a number, and they're bad for corals. They compete with corals and they'll sting them to death. So how do you deal with Aiptasia? Everybody is looking for some magical biological control.
You're not a fan of that.
Which ones do you just think are useless?
Which one do I hate?
Which one do you think is not a good one?
That Mahano wand.
Yeah. Oh, for Aiptasia?
For Mahano, it's great. For Aiptasia, in my experiences, and man, when they first came out, this was friggin' years ago. But yeah, I used it to zap some Aiptasia, and like I said, it was just like making more Aiptasia.
Yeah, it's a wand that you run current through, and it makes electrolysis happens, and you can burn stuff with it. For Mahanos, it's great because if you just kill off the oral disc, the Mahano dies off. Because Mahanos are very thick-bodied. Aiptasia are very thin-bodied, and it will take you a long time to kill it all the way down. And also, if pieces float away, those can bud and become new Aiptasia. So that's great, but that's not a biological control.
Okay, biological control. Well, trying to get a hold. I like copper bandids, but a copper bandit is something you have to, and I hate this, but you have to order like, I mean, this is an arbitrary number, but you'd have to like go through 4 or 5 to finally nail one down, and that lives in your tank, and if you're trying to take that route just to kill, it's not that I hate copper bandits. I just hate killing copper bandits to get one successfully. And then it's just like any other biological control. Biological control of a pest is usually not like guaranteed that he's going to start eating Aiptasia. Yeah. He may or he may not.
So only get a copper bandit if you like them. And if you're buying copper bandits, source them from Australia. There's no cyanide fishing happen on Australia. Most of the cyanide that, again, we talked about this before, is a black box. We're not really sure what's going on, but is in Philippines and Indonesia. So
they definitely cost more from Australia.
We've always been avoiding them from the Philippines and Indonesia, and the ones we get from Australia do just fine. I don't like Bergia at all as a biological control. Bergia,
I've done them a couple of times, but that's tricky.
It's a small nudibranch, and it absolutely eats Aiptasia. So this is where I think a version where, in theory, it makes a whole lot of sense. And we can talk about products like this as well. In theory, they make sense, but does it actually work? This is why I'm always talking about with products, that are based off other industries. Where is the test or the experiment in our conditions, right? So it turns out a lot of stuff likes to eat these Bergian nudibranchs, and it also turns out that they take a long time to eat a population of Aiptasia down nothing. So those two things make it really problematic for them to really control in the way people want biological controls to control Aiptasia. They can do it if you got a tank with nothing else in it, but and you put Bergia in it and just Aiptasia, they will eat it. The problem is no more Aiptasia, Bergia starve. Okay, we can get over that. But here's the other thing that's really exciting. One of the other things that people use all the time as a biological control is peppermint shrimp. Peppermint shrimp will eat up your freaking Bergia. So you've just wasted everything. So, Bergia is going to take 6 months to have an impact in a larger tank or a medium-sized tank with Aiptasia. It's just not what people think. And then they get frustrated, and then they turn to the one thing I think is really good, which is like Caulk, but we'll get to that, to kill. And then you're killing the Bergia at the same time. So I think Bergia is a great idea. I just think its application is, we have too much going on in our tanks to use Bergia.
I do like Caulk. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We're talking about this. I just recently had no choice, but I just dumped 15 peppermints in a client's 90 gallon. Just it's the Aiptasia's running away from me. Yes, I could do Caulk. Again, this is not an ad for this product, but there is a product called Aptasia.
Yeah.
From Frank's Tank in Fort Worth. And it's weird. I don't know if it's some kind of caulk paste or whatever, but the thing is you inject and then kind of cover the Aiptasia, and it was weird. It makes like kind of a hardened cap. I don't know what the hell's in it, and it does seem to work. I have a tendency, even though I like that product, I have a tendency just to use, cheap and simple, like Caulk. I would just as soon use caulk paste.
Let's finish the biological controls before we get on to.
Okay, I thought we were.
We didn't talk much about peppermint shrimp. So what are the pros and cons of peppermint shrimp?
Well, yeah, for that, when I bomb out a tank with peppermint, meaning if I had a tank that had a lot of Aiptasia in it, you don't put 3 peppermints. And this is in my experience. You put a shit ton, 15 or 20, depending on the size of the tank and the size of the Aiptasia problem. And they can literally just take about a week to annihilate Aiptasia. But the problem is you're never going to go hunt those down. And if they outcompete each other for food like that, they could start tearing up zoanthid polyps and stealing food from corals' mouths. And, so they could wreak other havoc besides that.
And sometimes you get the wrong shrimp. It's not even the right peppermint shrimp.
Yeah, I think the right one is Lismata wordhami.
Yep. And you can catch them out. I found that a simple water bottle or soda bottle trap
with some food in it.
You cut the mouth of the flip it over so the spout goes inside, and then the shrimp goes in and can't find its way out. You can catch them.
What an idiot.
But I found that peppermint shrimp tend to get a little aggressive, and I don't really like them. If it's an emergency, and then also you got to have, I think not feeding is a good thing. If there's easy food for the peppermints to eat, they may not eat the Aiptasia, which is why maybe you find more success with 15.
Yeah. It's they just outcompete each other real fast and go for it.
There's a couple other things you could do. You could just remove rocks that have it on there and swap out rocks. That's a great way to go.
Aiptasia can drive you nuts though, because especially if they spawn, you just remove every rock in your tank and you would still find them on the glass and in the substrate.
I've got tons of Aiptasia in my overflows.
But I never have several. Yeah.
But I never see them. There's one in the main tank. But so there's a bunch of products that you can use. When you said Aiptasia, you said inject. Did you literally mean inject the Aiptasia or just cover it?
Well, it has one of those nozzles that's not a hypodermic needle.
So you're not injecting, you're just covering.
But you could still get it in their mouth. It's not
that's
too hard
on their mouth. You're not putting it inside the animal.
No, I've put it inside the animal before.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Really? It would cause it, you think, to spit out the gametes and all that?
Yeah, they're too fragile. If you break them apart. So I'm going to assume that all the Aiptasia and there was another one, I forget the name right now. They're all kind of caulk based kind of things.
Remember Joe's Juice?
Joe's Juice. They're all fine. They all seem to work. They all seem to do the same kind of thing. I like caulk paste because I can mix it up and know it's very potent.
I never understood that about the prepared versions, because if that truly is, and they always seem like they were like caulk paste, but it's sitting in a bottle.
Yeah, I don't know.
I question the potency.
I know. Oh, Aiptasia X was the one. The other one. I know when I had a new bottle of that seemed to work very well. Because I like to try things. I haven't tried any of the other ones, but I go back to caulk paste because I know it's potent. And so what do? You take a bunch of the powder and you mix it with fresh water and you make it into like a soup. You make it into like toothpaste consistency, or a little bit wetter than that. You don't want it runny. You want it to be able to kind of cover and sit. And you suck it up into a syringe without a needle on it. You can use Julian's thing as a really good way to deliver it as well. And then you just cover the aptasia completely. If it's in a hole, you fill the hole.
There. Stop you there. Julian's thing can be found at twolittlefishies.com. I don't know if it's .com. I'm just saying, some people watching is like, what the hell's Julian's thing? It's the company Two Little Fishies.
Yeah.
And Julian sprung. So Julian's thing.
It's basically a long turkey baster.
Yeah.
That you can control.
You could probably inseminate a horse with it.
I wonder what that is. I've delivered caulk paste with a turkey baster.
Really?
That's fine.
Dude.
Yeah. In a 70,000 gallon shark tank, we had an aptasia problem. I mean, I've done it in small tanks, but I've just
sounded severe to me.
Just covered tons of it, aptasia, and it wiped them out. They tried biological controls for a few years before they finally let me go in there, and we got rid of it in 2 months. I've used it in tanks, the turkey baster as well. But my favorite kind of thing, and I actually like Julian. Well, it doesn't matter. Here's a syringe. I took the needle off. No needle. You can suck up the caulk paste. So I keep adding water till I can suck it up and squeeze it out of here. That's kind of the test. And then it kind of dribbles out like a soft serve cone.
Well, don't you find it important? Because when I do that, I turn off the main system. I turn off the main pump. And I even turn off the circulation pumps. I want it to be still in the tank.
It's a great point. Turn off all the circulation while you're doing this dose, and swirl it on them. Get them completely covered. And then, I mean, like really pack it on them. They're making a mound of it over them. Don't skimp on this.
Yeah.
So you'll have to decide how much caulk you can add to your tank at once without it being bad for your system. You have to figure that one out. And then you only do an area at a time if you're worried about it spiking. You could use your method of feeding, powered by Polyp Lab, roids. You do it before you're doing a water change.
Yeah, true.
But mostly I think you're adding the caulk and it's not really mixing, it's precipitating. So you squeeze it on, you make a mound over your aptasia, it crusts over, you let it sit for 45 minutes or an hour like that. After about half an hour, you can put on a little bit of circulation if you're worried, but make sure it's a piece of circulation that's not blowing at the area where you just put the caulk paste on.
Blow the caulk washer everywhere.
And after 45 minutes or an hour, a lot of the time you can siphon it out if you want to, or you can just leave it because I think it's pretty much inactive. And a lot of times, if it's not getting direct flow on that area, that crust will just sit there.
Yeah,
it'll just sit there, and eventually it will go away, and then your aptasia is gone from that area. And you do it progressively over the tank, and I think using that method, you can get aptasia under control.
And you basically said this, but I would caution too, like don't rid your whole 75 gallon with 30 aptasia. Don't cover every aptasia and then kick it on, and then caulk wasser's blowing all over your tank and you just annihilate. Like Rich said, like pick spots and do it like maybe once every couple days.
Do a chunk.
Yeah.
I would mix up, like in my 150 gallon system. Well, when it was about 250 gallons, I would use that much caulk in a cup, about half an inch maybe. And I'd mix that with water, and I wouldn't use any more than that. Oh, the other thing you could do is you can get creative with this. That's a needle. You can take a piece of airline tubing and connect it to the syringe, and then connect that piece to a piece of rigid airline tubing, and you can use that to deliver.
Yeah.
Your caulk. You can also bend it so you can get hard to reach.
Deliver your caulk.
Yeah, deliver your caulk. Caulk with an L.
Oh yeah.
So the aptasia is one of the pests, I think, that if just like it's just one of the if you just
remember when people used to do lemon juice? That was ridiculous.
yeah, it doesn't make again, it's injecting. I don't even think like injecting muriatic acid is a good idea for
Not for aptasia. It
for
works.
aptasia.
It works pretty good for Mahano.
Oh, it's great for Mahanos.
Yeah.
But for aptasia, cover it with caulk, go away, come back in 45 minutes, put your pumps back on, and don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Boom.
I like the I like using a very small diameter, like a 5/8 inch tubing or whatnot, to go and kind of siphon it out. That could allow you to address a little bit larger area if you really felt like you needed or wanted to do that, to not just kick it on if you're worried about what all that much caulk paste would do.
I've never seen a pH bump from it.
Yeah.
I think it's just like the caulk slurry that ends up at the bottom. It's just precipitated into an inert thing. But I'm sure Craig will tell us about that too.
Yeah.
But
sorry, Craig.
And I like to leave it because I like to leave it for as long as possible because it's also covered the aptasia. Yeah. So if for some reason it hasn't killed it, it's suffocating it out.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the conventional wisdom, what we were always told was that like if you agitate an aptasia, it will spit out like sperm and eggs.
Maybe.
I don't know that that's true, but it's like,
yeah. I read an article about inducing spawning in aptasia because they wanted to use the aptasia as a lab animal.
Oh, they wanted to grow aptasia.
Yeah.
And tell them to come here and I'll take them to a couple of tanks.
I'm trying to remember. I'll have to dig up that paper again.
That's like people that breed Bergia. They're always asking people for rocks of aptasia.
Yeah. Do you know that the Pratt Reef Club in New York, they make aptasia pets?
What?
It's a great pet for college dorms, right? Because you put it in a jar and you feed it a little bit, and once a week you do a little bit of a water change.
Yeah, they don't require too much.
They don't require anything.
Oh, no joke. Oh,
yeah.
Shit. I might try that then. That'll be the new pet, a bowl full of aptasia.
Are we? Yeah. Well, it's been going on for a few years. It's pretty awesome. They have an exchange and they decorate their tanks and
yeah.
Are we missing anything with aptasia? Anything we should cover?
Biological controls and chemical control.
Yeah, I think for a lot of these things, there's no miracles, and you just freaking need to do a little bit of work.
My suggestion, though, this is to all beefers, reefers, everyone that I talk to. You got a reef tank, and you see an aptasia, do something about it.
Kill it
then and now.
Kill it.
Don't wait. It's not going to get better.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, when you see an aptasia, actually, I have to make a doser because I have an aptasia that's inside a hole under a rock. And every time I try to kill it, I can't get it. So I need to
knows it too.
I need to do this and kill it off. But I think Ben's right. It's way easier to kill off 2 aptasia with a bunch of caulk, and you don't get frustrated and you nail them right away. And I've got 4 or 5 Mahanos in the main tank now that I've got to go in and inject.
Mahano. Hate Mahano.
But
they're easier to kill than aptasia, but they're just mind numbing. I have a tank right now that's just.
We'll get to Mahanos. Maybe we'll do that next episode or the episode after next. I think we're taking a break next week from this while we do the questions.
I have extensive Mahano knowledge.
The 25th episode.
Hell, I just posted a picture on Facebook.
Yeah, I did. You did.
The tank that I was like, I freaking hate Mahanos. It's like a wall of Mahano.
I can't wait to tell you the funniest thing I did for Mahanos recently. I'm not going to say what it is now.
Okay, save it. Save it. Chop.
But the point is, all of these things, all of these problems for reef tanks are only problems if you let them become problems.
Yeah, don't let it become a problem. Yeah.
If you got algae, take care of it. If you got a spot of algae, freaking get it out of the tank. Use these things to scrape your rock and siphon the algae out. Or just take the rock out and snap it off.
Oh, I have one thing to add.
Don't wait for it to become a problem.
I have one thing to add. What about, and I haven't done this in a long time, but what about if you encased it with some like 2-part putty?
You can, any of these pests you can cover with 2-part putty.
But the question is, do you think that would really kill it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've done it. You just cover them up. Super glue, you could cover them with super glue if you can. Agitate them so they ball up first. Cover them up. That'll work. No problem.
Okay.
I've taken out a patch of bryopsis this big with 2-part epoxy.
Really?
Covered the whole thing up. Gone. It seals it and it kills it.
Yeah.
It's great. But we'll get to that in another. I think the takeaway is deal with it now while it's small.
But that's and again, though, that's a trick about aptasia. And I mean, beefers, listen to us, old salts, because aptasia is one of those things. If you address it in an incorrect manner, it will only come back tenfold. So especially with aptasia, know how to deal with it correctly. Know what one looks like. Have a keen eye for it. People always comment to me when I'm looking at people's reefs like, oh shit, you have an aptasia there. But I mean, this is what I do for a living. I'm looking for this stuff every day for like the last 25 years. This is what I do. And
you know what? You occurs to me?
You have to look for them.
Yeah. And think of aptasia like the dishes at your house, right? You're never done with the dishes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my opinion too. Even, man, I don't care. You went through and you did all the caulk. You're like, cool. I don't have the aptasia. You will have aptasia if you keep that tank long enough.
They're in your pipes.
Yep.
They're in your pipes. They're going to come out.
They're in the overflow.
And it's, and I'm the laziest reefer there is, right? I would love for you to be able to take care of it and be done. But man, once a month, you go in with a Caulk syringe, take care of aptasia. You go in with a real syringe to take care of Mahanos. It's just 5 minutes and you're done. Yeah. It's algae problems. It's all the same thing. Just deal with it while it's small.